Good evening, my name is Courtney Bolton, and I'm here to talk to you today about trial as an adult. So what do you think of when someone says a convicted murder? What do you picture the assailant's age to be? On the average, the youngest someone can be tried as an adult is 13 years old. That's on average throughout the United States. However, 13 states allow any age to be tried as an adult. So, did you know that children as young as 6 years old have been charged with horrific crimes? Some say children this young don't understand their actions, don't understand consequences. Some say they shouldn't be charged an adult because this puts them at the possibility of being put into the wrath and dangerous headquarters of an adult prison. So those are the things I want to dive in today with you. And I believe I have a policy in mind that accommodates many viewpoints and sides. Crime and the mystery surrounding them has been a huge passion of mine for as long as I can remember. However, one thing I've never been able to truly understand or reason with is 6-year-olds, children as young as 6 years old, being tried with these horrific crimes. And what is the correct answer to this? What is the appropriate punishment? After hours, days, and weeks of research, I believe I have an answer that accommodates many viewpoints. So that is that child offenders who commit first or second degree murder or rape should be charged as an adult. And with that charging, they should not be put into an adult prison, by no means juvenile prisons only. So with laws such in place, that would help these families whose lives were destroyed, give them the peace of mind and closure that they deserve, while also keeping these dangerous individuals off the streets. It would decrease the number of repeat offenders committing crimes, and lastly, it would protect the minors found guilty by putting them to the juvenile detention centers and away from these dangerous walls of adult prisons. According to the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, minors are the sole cause of around 350 murders a year in the United States. That's 350 family members mourning the loss of their family just as if they would have if it was an adult. That is 350 offenders that should be tried and held accountable for what they've done. This is why today I would like to discuss 3 main points. The first would be some statistics and background information on these offenders. Secondly, I'd like to discuss the science behind and why is it appropriate to charge them as adults. And lastly, I would like to discuss the existing legislation, how we can change it, and why we should change it. So let's begin with some statistics. The FBI stated that in 2017, 8 homicides were the result of children 12 years and younger. There were 405 that were resulted of between 13 and 16 years old. Some were, of course, accidental, but many were premeditated. There are a couple of cases I'd like to bring to your attention. One that's pretty controversial, and that is of Jedion Long. We'll get to him in a minute. 8 homicides of the 17,284 in 2017 in the U.S. were by children 12 years and younger. Excuse me. This doesn't seem like much, given it's only 0.04%. However, those 8 families, 100% of their lives were changed and destroyed. 405 were the result between 13 and 16 years old. That is 2.3%. And as I stated earlier, some were accidental. December 2018, Malaya Palmer accidentally shot and killed her 12-year-old brother. March 2018, a 10-year-old boy saw his 9-year-old sister playing with a handgun. He was scared for her life. He tried to grab it from her, accidentally shot and killed her. There are also unfortunate cases where children deliberately commit murder. And that's where I like to put some faces to some names. First, we're going to talk about Alyssa Bustamante. She's a 15-year-old who murdered her 9-year-old neighbor in 2012. She murdered Elizabeth Olton by means of strangulation and slashing her throat and wrist. This is an act of pure hatred. It was thought out, so she was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Craig Price, 13-year-old, he went on a serial killing spree, killing 4 of his neighbors by stabbings. His victims were between 8 and 39 years old. He was sentenced to 25 years. His behavior's been so bad behind bars, it's likely he'll never get out. And then lastly, Jedion Long, the controversial case I wanted to talk to you today about. He is from Colorado, and in March of 2011, he called the police and confessed to killing his parents and his siblings. When police arrived, he did in fact kill his parents by means of stabbings and gunshot wounds. His siblings were not dead though, like he suspected. His brother was shot and stabbed in his genitals. His sister was stabbed in the back and neck. They were both survived and later adopted by their uncle. The part that bothers me and what makes this controversial is that he was only sentenced to 7 years in juvenile detention center. So that means someday he'll be able to walk the streets with not only other American citizens, but the streets that his siblings walk, and are likely going to be terrified when he's released. Again, this is a double homicide convicted murder. 7 years. Now that I have discussed some statistics on child murders and some cases that have actually occurred, now I'd like to explain some science behind it and why it's necessary to charge them. Dr. James Furrow, Dr. Jim Owens, and Dr. William Womack, they all conducted much research in regards to minors committing horrendous crimes. As I've stated, this is very controversial and many viewpoints are within this. So one thing all three doctors agreed on is this: chronological age means nothing. And how they came about this was the fact that nobody truly knows what these kids are coming from, their background. Some have physical, sexual, psychological abuse, neglect, drugs. And two people, according to Heather Mitchell and Michael Admont of Radford University, for serial killers, the previous physical abuse was 36%, sexual abuse 26%, and psychological 50%. So there's definitely a connection. Dr. Womack and Dr. Farrow also studied the following. By 6, they have an internal conscience. By 9, they understand that it's necessary to have rules for normal functioning. And by 12, children are able to process right from wrong and consequences. So scientifically speaking, regardless of age, regardless of background, action should be met with appropriate consequences. Now let's review current legislation. So as I stated, in the United States, 13 states, I've highlighted them in blue. Those are the only states that allow any age to be tried as an adult. I firmly believe, that this should be across the United States. As we've discussed, children have committed deliberate, thought-out, and hateful murders. How is 7 years in prison for Jedion Long doing justice? His 2 siblings are still out there. Why should we give him a second chance to commit this murder over? Trying child offenders as adults can decrease the chance of repeat offenders. It gives victims peace of mind knowing things were treated and tried as the crime it is, and not who committed it. It doesn't really matter to a mother if a 12-year-old or a 50-year-old killed her son. No, the pain is the same and she'll never see him again. So it should also be consistent on how we try crimes. Unfortunately, trying children also puts them at risk for being in adult prisons. That's extremely dangerous. That should not be an option. Juvenile detention is the only answer until they come of age. They should be given counseling, job training, and Bible studies, and time to truly reflect on what they've done without being scared of being abused. There are about 10,000 children in America in adult prisons. This means they're 5 times more likely to be sexually abused and 36 times more likely to commit suicide. So regardless of the crime, one can only hope that someone can find it within themselves and become a better person. And putting them in adult prisons is not the way. So after sentencing, juvenile prison, and then get rehabilitative care. And in conclusion, I'd like to make a few more statements. Children should be held accountable for severe crimes, regardless of age, but in prison in a safe environment. So today I shared background and statistics, science behind why they should be charged accordingly, and the existing legislation, how we should change it, and why. So by supporting a law across the United States that child offenders who have committed first or second degree murder or rape should be charged as an adult but kept in a juvenile detention center until they're of age, we are providing justice while protecting and hopefully rehabilitating these perpetrators.